The Charlotte Hornets lose again the second night of a back-to-back to the Boston Celtics. LaMelo Ball again plays at least just the fourth most minutes on the team. We'll talk about it all today on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
You are Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available on all platforms. That includes YouTube. And you can check us out on Twitter, Walker Mail, Doug Branson, LOH, and Locked On Hornets. We kind of expected this loss. You lose to the Nets. You lose to the Boston Celtics. I expected full-blown panic to come about as soon as they would lose to Boston. And I feel like we're kind of there right now, at least based on the reaction of Hornets Twitter. Some of the comments that continue to roll in from James Borrego, some of the players, it seems like there's something there. So are you going to play it? You're going for it. I don't know if you're going to go for the speculation music. It doesn't seem like we're in good spirits.
Do you need it? I mean, do you need it? I want to protect you. If you need it, I've got it. I can play it right now.
It seemed like you were going for something, and I just wanted to make sure that you weren't or you were and just clarify it. But look, they lost those two games. I said it was going to be bad after that. Now they've got some opportunities. 2 games against the Pelicans. Brandon Ingram is going to be out for this next game, and they're going to reevaluate him 7 to 10 days from yesterday. And so I'd forget the next game they'll play the Pelicans, but there's a shot he misses both of those games. That'll be huge for them. You're also going to play Oklahoma City on Monday, I believe. That's another game that you should win. It's one of the worst teams in the league. So, like, there are some ways to make up ground, but it's not very good the way that they're playing. And you even see the Charlotte Hornets just at the end of this one, the Celtics find a way to separate themselves. You had the end of the third quarter disaster. The mood does not seem good surrounding Hornets Nation after we kind of were trying to see signs of life heading into this game against the Nets.
Yeah, and it's the way they've lost these games, right? I mean, it has been first quarter lapses on defense, first quarter turnover issues, first quarter offense not moving the ball issues, and then as the game progresses, allowing a superstar talent on the other side of the floor dominate you. It was 50 points from Kyrie against the Nets. It was 44 points on another amazing shooting night from Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum, a player that, if you remember in some of the past Boston Celtics matchups this season, even when Boston won, Jason Tatum was not playing very well against the Hornets.
Right.
And he definitely got this one off his back. He dropped 44. And I mean, the biggest story from this game, other than, there being some panic and the Hornets not looking like they're really ready to compete in the East, it's LaMelo Ball. It's 4 turnovers in the fourth quarter and then 2 turnovers within 1 minute of the second quarter.
First quarter, right? Yeah, first quarter he had the 4 turnovers. Yeah,
he had the 4 turnovers in the first quarter. It's a lot of numbers.
Right.
All right, it's really early. It's early for me. It's a lot of numbers. 4 turnovers in the first quarter and then 2 turnovers within the first minute of the second quarter. We all got that straight. And then he doesn't see another minute in the second quarter after he gets pulled. He comes back in the second half, but once again, we have Borrego seemingly making a little bit of a statement with LaMelo saying, if you're going to turn the basketball over like this, then I've got to sit you. I mean, what do you make of that whole situation? And well, we should get to the comments because they did have something to say after the game about this.
Well, first, just real quickly before the comments. Yeah, LaMelo plays the first 7 minutes of the first quarter. James Borrego takes him out, puts him back in at the end of the first with 2:30 to go, plays the rest of the way, and then plays, a minute after that. After that next turnover, he's out. That's when James Borrego decides to bring him out.
It was the old vaudeville Kane.
And then played most of the second half. Like the only time he didn't was that stretch in the third. It was the last 5 minutes of the third. And for the most part, he plays the rest of the game, except at the very end when the game's out of reach and it's done. You put in like JT Thor. You get your Thor, Nick Richards, and that's about it.
More Thor!
Yeah,
the movement is alive. And I'm telling you, if the Hornets keep playing like this, the more Thor movement is going to be alive.
You're going to get all the Thor you can get, buddy, if it keeps happening like this. Let's get to those comments. Here's James Borrego when asked about the first half. he talked about how good the effort was. It was not the same effort that they came out against the Brooklyn Nets. It was there, right? The ball was moving. They had some decent possessions, just not executing as well.
Moving into the hands of defenders.
It was moving in the hands of other defenders, but it wasn't because of the effort. I feel like most people saw that. So he would give them the compliment. The effort was there, and then he would have this to say about the other problems.
Turnovers, a little bit of transition defense, going back the other way. So we got to clean up our transition. A lot of that is our offense. I think we had 10 turnovers there early, and the young fella had a couple, and it cost us going the other way. So just got to keep making the right reads, keep sharing it. I think the intention was there, the execution was poor. So transition going the other way and second chance in the first half.
The young fella.
Doesn't
want to name him by name, but definitely.
Somebody.
I don't even need the speculation music to understand that James Borrego was referring to LaMelo Ball there, saying the young fella, and it was naming him essentially and saying he, cost us in that first quarter.
He had a couple of turnovers, right? A couple, meaning four in the first quarter. I looked back at these turnovers, Doug. There were two that weren't devastating or that weren't so egregious, if you will. Mm-hmm. The other four turnovers that he had were pretty bad. There were a few that led to Jason Tatum fast break points. There was one where it was just a dunk, 2-hand slam, momentum booster for the Boston Celtics. I believe that was in the second quarters, either the first or second one that he committed in there. But there were four bad ones. There's the one that he tries to kick out to the corner, and that was the one that Jason Tatum was able to steal. It goes right to him. They're trying to make something happen. The two that I didn't really blame him for, he's trying to make something happen with Mason Plumlee. It looks like a miscommunication. Okay, okay, there's the offensive foul too for LaMelo. They're always dicey. Maybe he's out of control, but I don't look at that and say that's a real problem. But 6 turnovers is a lot. That's objectively a lot of turnovers, and that's bad. No possession for you, an extra possession for your opponent. He sits a lot for the second quarter. At some point,
James in the Borrego doghouse.
Is it that he wants to?
He's been there before. Sorry,
yes,
I keep interrupting you, but I'm having these thoughts.
These are great comments
anxious.
from you. No, they're great comments. They deserve to be interrupting me. But no, the question is it really James Borrego trying to teach him? Is it him actually thinking the Hornets are better for that stretch to get LaMelo refreshed?
It doesn't seem to be. Whatever is happening, it doesn't seem to be working.
Well, Isaiah Thomas came in the offense. They played better, but I don't think that I wanted to see less Isaiah Thomas. After a while, I was like, okay, this is fun. Let's get LaMelo back in there. It was fun for a little bit. They had a nice stretch. People were clamoring for more IT. I'm like, dude, no, I don't want more IT. I want LaMelo to get in there. And he did in the second half. What do you make of those comments, Doug?
Yeah, there's clearly, I really want to get to the Ball comments.
You want to do that first? We can do that.
I think they illuminate some things. Look, yes, I always call them aft turnovers. The really bad ones are the above the free throw line turnovers that are initiated from above the free throw line, because those end up either being a take foul or, most of the time end up just being 2 points for the other team. So those are really bad. There's no question about that. The question is, why is he turning the basketball over like this? Because, LaMelo hasn't, when I think back to the first half of the season, right. I don't think of LaMelo Ball as turnover heavy. It seems like something has changed, whether it happened at the All-Star break or whatever. LaMelo seems to be playing a little funky, not himself. And I saw, I can't remember. I'm sorry, I can't credit who added me on this tweet, but someone said, where are the 3/4 court highlight plays that we were seeing earlier in the season from LaMelo Ball? And whether that can be substantiated in actual stats, I don't care. That the essence of that tweet is that the LaMelo we're watching now doesn't reflect the LaMelo we watched earlier in the season. Well, and I think his comment after the game sort of backed that up, right?
Yeah. So here's LaMelo Ball discussing, he's not going to give you a lot. We know how he interviews. Make of this what you will, what LaMelo Ball has to say after the game.
Yeah, like I said, just not playing my game, trying to do other stuff, pretty much letting people get in my head. But yeah, just got to cut that down for sure.
Melo, in what ways did you feel like people, I guess, got in your head?
No, I'm just saying, like, just not being me, pretty much. I should have just attacked on something I was trying to pass. So, yeah, just being consistent.
I wanted to play the full exchange so people could get the full context and what LaMelo had to say before and after somebody asked him to clarify. That was Jonathan Alexander in there from the Charlotte Observer asking him to clarify. And he seemed like he was trying to cover it up with sand. Oh, no, because LaMelo doesn't want to talk about all that stuff in the locker room, right? Like, he doesn't want to give you a whole lot. And I understand that. I feel like he was kind of in a moment where he was saying his true feelings, and that's not something LaMelo wants to do.
Well,
and look, remember, this is a LaMelo where there were reports out there of NBA GMs and front office execs saying like he was a really bad interviewer, you know, like that he wasn't good, to the point where I don't know if they were wanting more from him as far as clarity or, you know, something, or that they didn't like what they were hearing. I'm not sure what it was, but that was the report. You could see how LaMelo might be guarded in some of those instances with that report. Yeah, this is something. He said it twice, by the way. He said it at the beginning and he said it there. There's something going on, and like, you know, you want to play the speculation music, Doug? You've got the take. Go ahead and bring it to us.
Okay, well, I do have the take. I really want to break this thing down. I just want to say one thing about him being a bad interview. He's 20 years old.
Yeah.
He didn't go through the like elite college program where you have to face reporters a lot and you're under that kind of intense scrutiny. So this is his sort of first experience in that. And so that's, you know, I don't really blame him for that. I think he will become a better interview, whatever that means.
Before you get to the take, you're totally right. Like the worst interviews I've had, the top 4 that come to mind are all rookies that have been drafted into the city. Devontae Graham. Oh my God. It was an all-time awful interview when he was drafted and we had him the day after.
He was an older player. I mean, he played 4 years.
I played at Kansas. Yeah. And Dwayne Bacon was just atrocious. Then, you know, there are some other guys that just really don't like speaking in public that I'm not going to throw into the bus like that. But Devontae got better. Dwayne got a little better, you know. So anyways, there are a couple of Carolina Panthers too. And to your point, yes, he's 20 years old.
Okay, here's what I want to do, because we've got to get to this I want to save this for the second segment. So don't go away. I've got my take on this. Interesting comments from LaMelo Ball. We should just replay the clip because it is so when someone who doesn't say a lot says anything, it means something.
We are selling this, baby. Do not go anywhere. All right, let's talk about Athletic Greens. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. I believe I'm saying that right. Adaptogens, not adaptogens, adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All of those things, plenty of things it's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy free, or gluten free. It's free for all. It helps you with all of that. And it contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, while still tasting good too. Tons of people will take some kind of multivitamin. It's important to choose one with high quality ingredients that your body will actually absorb. Athletic Greens 1, AG1, is a small micro habit with big benefits. It's one thing you can do every single day to take great care of yourself. So it also costs less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. It's cheaper than getting all the different supplements yourself. You're investing in an all-in-one nutritional insurance. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. It's amazing. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NBA Network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NBA Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. We'll be back with you in just a moment with takes on LaMelo Ball comments.
This is Locked On Hornets.
You think no rust? You think he's coming out?
Listen.
Okay.
Listen. Number one. Are you listening? Number one, he's a certified gamer. Number 2, part game, don't rust.
I'm with
part game, don't rust.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
It's that time of year again as college basketball's tournament is finally upon us. From all the latest odds, contests, and player props, betonline.net is the #1 source for all your sports betting needs and info. It remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. It's not just basketball, plenty of other things that you can get included in on. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, let's talk and set up the LaMelo Ball comments.
I want to hear these comments again. I need to hear these before I make my
Even the JB
take
one?
on this. No, I don't want to hear the JB one anymore. I'm done with that one. I want to hear LaMelo's. Here we go.
Like I said, just not playing my game, trying to do other stuff, pretty much just letting people get in my head. But just got to cut that down for sure.
All right, let's stop there because there's a follow-up. Who's getting in his head? But he says, I'm trying to do other stuff, not playing my game, letting people get into my head. So let me protect myself.
Again, we're just speculating here, but this is experience speculation.
It's experience speculation. Doug has years of experience speculating. All right, go ahead.
I mean, this is, clearly, I think either the staff or Borrego himself. I mean, that's what I speculate. Right. My experience speculation is that he's in his own head about, and look, Borrego has talked in the past about LaMelo, about his decision-making when it comes to attacking and getting his own offense versus setting up others.
Finding that ratio. Yeah.
Yeah, finding that ratio, right? And so if he's telling the media that he's working on that, you can be sure that he has told LaMelo that multiple times, and they've been in film sessions. He's talked about that too, right? We've heard Borrego say they've sat down and looked at film together and gone over some of this stuff. So I can't really play the second half of this. My technology is limited here without hearing the first half again. So let's hear the whole ball.
Yeah, like I said, just not playing my game, trying to do other stuff, pretty much just letting people get in my head. But just got to cut that down for sure.
Melo, in what ways did you feel like people, I guess, got in your head?
I don't know, I'm just saying, like, just not being me, pretty much. I should have just attacked on something I was trying to pass. So, just being consistent.
So
just not being me.
Just not being me, attacking on some, not being consistent. Again, I don't want to get into this like trying to read tea leaves here and read between the lines and, trying to figure out what he's trying to say without trying to say it. I don't really want to play that game. But all I'm saying is when LaMelo Ball, who rarely says anything, we sort of had a laugh at how little he gave at the All-Star game. He's like, yeah, I'm just excited to play. Just want to give, show the fans a good time. Like it was just so nothing, right? I mean, he just rarely gives you anything. When he says anything, it means something. And these frustrations seem to be bubbling up as these losses pile up. And if the Hornets suddenly find themselves out of play-in contention, I'm just saying the honesty level is only going to increase.
Well, it's
as
already
the losses
increasing.
Increase.
It's already increasing too. Like you're starting to see Terry Rozier. I wish those young dudes knew what it was like to play in the playoffs. Here's LaMelo saying, I just need to, I wonder how much it's actual players on the team too. Like, how much is it maybe vets? Like how much is any, Terry's his guy. Miles Bridges is his guy. That's all we've heard, at least from those players. He said they're a brotherhood once again last night in the post-game comments. I don't know if there are some other players that have still told him, hey, work on this. We've seen Miles coach LaMelo up a few times this season. Like Miles has gone at him, not in any kind of vicious way that was crazy animated, but we've seen him talk to LaMelo a few times on court. And so I wonder if there's any of this coming from the players.
I've always gotten the sense from LaMelo that he feels like his game is instinctual. It's buried inside of him.
Yeah.
And I've also gotten the sense from LaMelo, and I may be incorrect in this, but I've always gotten the sense from LaMelo that he feels like his game is somewhat complete. Now, I'm sure LaMelo would think that he has things to
get
work
better
on.
Every day, keep working.
Get better every day. Yeah, he's in the gym a lot. There's no question about that. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is I feel like I get the sense from him that he feels like he has a complete game that he just has to fully realize on the floor, right? And I think that's part of where this frustration comes from is LaMelo has always worked out his issues on the floor. And when he's making mistakes, he's got a coach that says, all right, if you make a certain amount of mistakes, I got to pull you.
It's not like LaMelo is immune to a lot of turnover games, right? Like that's even true at the beginning of the season. It wasn't happening at this rate. But if you look at when he was successful, when the Hornets were successful, at the beginning of the season, he had 5 combined in 3 games. And then he has 6 against Boston, by the way, in the overtime loss that would allow them to go to 3-1.
But what about the ratio, right? The ratio is off in this game. It's 4 assists, 6 turnovers, 5 personal fouls. Like we've seen LaMelo have high turnovers before, but they've been accompanied by 8, 9, 10 assists and low foul numbers.
Yeah, like
so that's where the rub is.
To some degree, yes. Like Orlando, he had 3 assists and he had 3 turnovers. Like there were those games too. Like I just, he also had that kind of game against the Clippers where he had 3 assists and he had 2 turnovers. So, 2 turnovers isn't even a lot. My point being is that it's not like it was completely immune to him, but that's also going to happen with a guy that has the basketball in his hands a lot, especially the point guard of your team. It's just that it's happened 4 turnovers at least in each of the last 3 games. And then he had 6 in an unbelievable short amount of time in this one. James Borrego, here's something you brought up about Borrego discussing LaMelo trying to find that ratio of attacking, when to be aggressive, when to kick out, when to look for your own shot. That's all part of the learning curve for any basketball player, let alone a point guard with a high usage rate. When you talk about, I think of Steve Clifford and I think of Kemba Walker.
I think about him often.
And I remember the story. Yes, you have a shrine.
He scared me. He as a young pup thinking about being a beat podcast reporter, he put the fear of God in me.
Steve Clifford did. So I remember the little excerpt from Zach Lowe's story on Kemba Walker when he was having that All-NBA year. And it talked about Kemba not being a good 3-point shooter and how Steve Clifford and Bruce Kreitzer and maybe even Mark Price at the beginning of Kemba's career all worked on reworking his form to allow him to become a high volume, consistent 3-point shooter. Kemba goes into Steve Clifford's office one day and says, I'm done. I'm going back to my own because it wasn't working. Like I'm shooting poorly. It's not going in. And I got to go back to my old ways. And Steve Clifford was like, that's fine. You can do that. And then you can become, a middle of the road basketball player that never reaches full potential. That's fine if you want to do that. It just brings up the point of how do you navigate the Kemba Walker of this to it being shooting form to letting LaMelo be the quarterback off script that doesn't have to stay in the pocket. And I view it more as allowing LaMelo to be instinctual because you get crazy basketball plays that no one's really even capable of. So that's the question, right? Do you take the Steve Clifford approach and Kemba Walker approach, keep working at it, boom, it suddenly clicks and you get an All-NBA appearance because of it? Or do you let him play off script and let him become an All-NBA player because of it? I'm going the latter. That's what I'm doing.
Well, the difficulty, that's I'm so glad you brought up that parallel because I think it is a parallel. And I think in that story that you just told about Kemba and Clifford, there was an immense amount of trust already baked into that relationship. But then Kemba had to essentially surrender and say, all right, I trust you. If you say this is going to happen, I'm going to stay with you here. I'm going to stay on this track. And then it has to be delivered. And it was delivered. And both coach and player trusted one another and were in sync.
Well, and the other thing,
I don't believe that is the case. I don't believe that is the case right now.
I agree.
And it's happening late in a season where expectations and results are not coinciding.
LaMelo even said winning cures everything, and they're not winning right now. And so when they talk about all the mistakes, it's a cliche and it's true. When we're winning earlier, everything was fine. Everything was okay. Now, there were still people angry with LaMelo not playing as much, but everything was fine when they were winning. You didn't have these types of comments. Now they're starting to pile on. The other thing I'll mention real quickly before we move on is that Kemba did not have near the star power. Not a lot of players do when they come into the league. And he was not very great at the beginning of the season or at the beginning of his career, right? Like he was shooting under 40%. I think it was the year prior or a couple years prior. Either way, like he wasn't very good.
Yeah, well, that's it. Clifford was like, hey, if you do this, it'll turn you into an all-star. LaMelo's already an all-star.
Yeah, so LaMelo's already on a ground.
What is Borrego's? That's the thing. Borrego is in sort of a tough spot in that he doesn't have as much leverage as Steve Clifford had in that situation. As a lot of coaches in the NBA, they have a certain amount of leverage with young players because they can say to young player, hey, I've been in this league a long time. If you follow me here, I can help you get to where you want to go. Whereas LaMelo, I think, has gotten to some of these places so early, there might need to be another voice that comes in and establishes a new relationship. I think that's sort of where we're heading. I don't know if we're there yet, but it seems like it's where we're heading.
I think a lot of it is going to be contingent on getting out of the play-in altogether. That if they don't play any postseason basketball at all, I mean, that's always.
Well, if they do exactly what they did against Boston, against any, I mean, maybe except against the worst teams in the NBA, if they turn the basketball over a lot, if they don't bother to box out, if they're not physical on defense, if they don't bother to, throw a body in front of somebody as they cruise through the lane, if they do all of those things, I guarantee you they won't make the play-in.
All right, this episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning? You don't have to do that and wait for the person behind the counter while he orders the parts on their computer. You can save time and money when using Rock Auto, so you don't have to choose to spend to even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership. It's a family-owned business. They've been serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or your truck. Right, Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. Let's clean up the recap from that Boston Celtics game coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
This is Locked On Hornets.
So if you don't believe in the moon landing, then what would you say is the greatest human achievement?
I think the greatest achievement of all time, and I think it's Vince Carter doing 360s clockwise rather
really
than
tough.
counterclockwise.
I've tried it. It's really tough.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
All right, let's talk about the other things that happened in this game, Doug. LaMelo, if you just want to look at his stat line, when he played, lots of turnovers, 5 personal fouls, 6 turnovers. That's the really bad. It just is. But he also finished in the paint. If you look at him, he didn't make any.
Floater game's locked in right now.
Yeah, it is. It really, and that was working too against Brooklyn, if I'm not mistaken. So 0 of 4.
But he's not shooting well.
Yeah, but right. And you hope that both of those can come along at the same time. But overall field goal percentage, good. 6 of 12. He just missed 4 shots from deep. But they
need him. But the point is they need him. Honestly, they need him to hit those shots from deep. Because I think Borrego mentioned in the postgame that a problem with their offense right now is they're really lacking spacing.
Yeah.
It's because so many guys are struggling from 3 right now.
Oh yeah, that's easy. And Terry Rozier goes 2 of 9. That's it. When Terry Rozier,
the scouting report is changing a little bit on the Charlotte Hornets. I mean, you can see it in the defenses. They are not as aggressive at the 3-point line. They're not running as many guys off because they realize, hey, if the Hornets don't shoot well, if we just bank on that in the first quarter and we attack passing lanes instead of really trying to stay with guys and defend 3-point shots, then we can beat this team pretty easily in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, PJ Washington can't be your leading scorer usually, and you expect to win. He got 17 points. He was 7 of 12 and was really on fire in the first half, scored 15 and then ended up with 2 the rest of the way. 5 of 14 was Miles, trying to attack, and that's part of the spacing problem is when there's not enough space for Miles to drive. It makes it harder for him to finish, even though he's a great finisher. Makes it that much harder. 5 of 14, not a very good shooting night from Miles Bridges. We went through LaMelo and Terry's stats, and then in the bench, Montrez is the most notable thing to me. Got 17 minutes, 4 of 7, but not too many minutes for him. And then I guess, not the most notable, like Isaiah comes in, scores a bucket, hits 3 free throws. And they're actually +5 in the only Isaiah Thomas minutes that you get, and that all came in the second quarter when LaMelo was on the bench. But
he calmed the offense down. I mean, he made some sort of basic. He wasn't doing anything amazing. This wasn't like an Ish Smith type of insert him and immediately the Hornets are coming back from 15 points down. This was more of a calming effect.
Well, yeah,
but he wasn't going to do anything about Robert Williams III having 7 offensive rebounds.
Robert Williams, what they've done is they've put him a little more off ball, just in he sprints to the dunker spot on offense. That's where he goes. And it's like, oh, we've switched. All right, let me go to the other side. And I thought that was going to be a problem immediately. And sure enough, it was. But yeah, like Isaiah Thomas, he's going to come in and hoist up shots, man, like 4 field goals. They were, pretty quick. The one that he made was a fadeaway. But even the Kelly Oubre sequence at the end of the game where he gets a technical foul, that's a huge turning point too. At the end of the third quarter, technical foul. LaMelo has that tough shot, it misses, and then there's 0.1 seconds left for them to have this 5-point swing, because I think they hit two free throws before Jason Tatum hit 3. So just dumb stuff. Like, that's the kind of stuff that loses you ball games. And, even John Corrales in his Locked On Now for Locked On Celtics said, to the stupidity of the Charlotte Hornets, it helped out the Boston Celtics a little bit. He's
Ouch,
dead right.
Johnny.
I don't know if stupidity was the right word, but it was some like derogatory comment, like, just not being smart, stupidity. Yeah, it was something like that.
Well, look, I mean, I don't think he's far off in that comment.
Oh, no, I'm not mad.
And I think the technical fouls, I think, are sort of reflective of the general frustration that sits, the cloud of frustration that sits over the Charlotte Hornets right now, that hasn't really been lifted by, wins against Cleveland. That win against Toronto seems meaningless at this point because they haven't been playing well. So really, like, the only meaningful win they have since the All-Star break is that Cleveland win, and it was just such a weird
And they weren't playing well when
game.
they won. Like, not to rain on the parade, but yeah. I mean,
the cloud of frustration is raining.
Yeah,
if we just want to take that imagery all the way. And I don't. It's so. I think it's been so informative, this back-to-back, because you've seen two teams in the Brooklyn Nets and the Celtics really represent what it means to, like, get better at the right time, especially the Celtics, who were just not playing very well. Tatum is a player that was struggling early in the season, but teams that are really scrappy, that are real threats in the playoffs, even if their seeding isn't very high. It's the kind of team that Boston is. They figure their defense out, they figure the rotation out, and players that struggled at the beginning of the season slowly improve. And that's something that Clifford, I know we've been very, like, Clifford heavy in this show.
I just brought up the excerpt. Yeah.
Reminiscing about Clifford. But he always used to say, like, that was the sign of a team that was going to give people problems in the postseason, is a team that had players that slowly throughout the season improved. It wasn't teams that had people come out of the gates immediately and get worse. And that's really what we have with the Hornets. I mean, there's several players that you can look at and say, wow, first 10, 15, 20 games, they were contending for award season. And now, not so much. And it's not a mystery as to why the Hornets are struggling right now.
By the way, can you imagine Steve Clifford coaching LaMelo Ball? That's not the coach you want for him. Not at all. That would be a disaster.
No, you've got to, I mean, so much in the player empowerment era is not only finding the right players, but finding the right voices that can improve on that player with the personality that player has, and trying to work with them. And honestly, we can talk about it all day long. Ultimately, as we look over the long term of what LaMelo's career becomes, some of it's going to be about coaching. Some of it's going to be about finding the right personnel that works with LaMelo Ball that can achieve what the Hornets want to achieve. But a portion of it is LaMelo Ball realizing that, hey, I'm 20 years old, I've got some things. And I'm not saying LaMelo Ball is not doing this. I'm just saying that if you want to become a superstar, it's not a given. It's not a given thing. If you want to get to Jason Tatum's level, if you want to get to Kyrie Irving's level, there is a amount of it that is God-given. But then there is a certain amount of it that you do have to take, ownership of and continue to improve. He's only 20 years old.
I do think there is one guy Steve Clifford would like. I know you got to go, Doug, real quickly, but we put it in the graphic. We have to get to it if we put it in the graphic. PJ Washington, we have some defensive stats on him if you want to roll through them, because he did have a good game in this one. 7 of 12, did play 42 minutes. It goes to that theme. James Borrego feels like he can't take PJ Washington off the floor right now. 42 minutes for PJ. It's a lot. So anyways, he plays him that much amount of time. Defensively, I just feel like he's grown a crazy amount. I know I praise his defense almost every episode, but you see so many different things where he's switching on to guards and playing well. In the post, he's playing well. He's protecting the rim at certain aspects. And I wanted to see if, like, the defensive advanced stats would back some of that up. And a lot of them do. There's some where, like, the team defense isn't great, but Doug, I know you have some of those stats that you could share.
Well, I was looking this up on B-Ball Index, and they have some player profiles, and unfortunately, someone so it's sort of a not publicly available, but people can jump in, and they've overwritten my player profile that I had saved. But generally, these stats do back up in terms of like perimeter defense. His overall like on-ball perimeter defense, we were looking, he was about the 32nd percentile. And, they grade all of these percentiles per position. And he was kind of a D- in the on-ball perimeter defense. But his passing lane defense, his three-point contests per 75 possessions, his steals and deflections per 75 possessions were all in the kind of B+, A- range. And the one interesting, so generally he's doing some right things on perimeter defense. I just think they switch him so much that he kind of gets, he's sort of on all of these matchups with players that are good with the ball in their hands that he ends up getting taken advantage of a lot. And it's not, I don't think it's really his fault. I think it's a reflection of how limited
roster,
they are defensively and how much they utilize him. The one interesting stat that I pulled from this is the defensive matchups per usage tier. We're getting really nerdy now, folks. Buckle in.
Love it.
But it measures like how often a person guards someone in a certain usage tier. Tier 1 being a high usage tier, players that handle the ball a lot. And he was well above average for his
80
position.
percentile is what you mentioned before the show.
Yeah, really above average. He's guarding players that handle the ball a lot, and it's I think he's done a really valuable job of being aggressive in those matchups, contesting threes, getting into passing lanes, making deflections. He's not a shot blocker. I mean, I've said that all season. Like he can contest, he can get up like this.
PJ for his position, like
for
he
his
was like
position,
top. He was like top. He was like top
right.
15 last year in total blocks per game, though.
Right, but I'm just saying there
like
are. I think there are better, more athletic shot blockers that are available. That I think he's this is the same story. I think he's great for his position, but he's being asked to do too much, and the stats reflect that.
Yeah, that's true. All right, thanks for making Locked On Hornets first listen every day. Tomorrow it'll be Fun Friday. I think we're going to try to have some fun, man. It's not been a good week for the Hornets. It's been bad. So we're going to try to have a fun Friday with David Walker hopping on with us. And
I always have fun.
Talk about some ads with Miles Bridges. Miles Bridges has something interesting out there. Ooh. So we'll talk about that tomorrow.
Maybe a little. Is it? We have to compare it to the Grandmama. That's like the pantheon of Charlotte Hornets ads. How does Miles Bridges ad? Who is he sponsoring? It's really interesting. And where does this stack up with Grandmama? I think that's what we have to answer.
All right, that's the question we will ask and answer tomorrow. Make your second listen Locked On NBA, Locked On experts covering the biggest stories around the NBA every Monday through Friday in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. We'll see you tomorrow.